go against the great Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson, both from Virginia, of all places. I would prefer the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Please have a seat, Mr. Jefferson. Ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hands the Constitution of the United States. A little applause, perhaps? Well, apparently we have quite a prejudice here in favor of the Constitution. We shall see if Mr. Patrick Henry from the great Commonwealth of Virginia can possibly persuade you to change your mind about the Constitution and perhaps return America to a simpler life, a more or less prosperous life, perhaps. One never knows, if we return to the Articles of Confederation or perhaps anarchy. On the other hand, we have Mr. Jefferson, who defended the Constitution for 8 years as President of the United States, much to the chagrin of his, shall we say, colleague, Mr. John Adams. This should be a very interesting debate, and we are going to begin this with the affirmative by Mr. Patrick Henry, who will begin and speak for 10 minutes on the subject of why it was a major mistake for the United States Congress and its people to vote not, he was definitely in favor of independence, as you all know, but the Constitution, should that be our law of the land? You have now 10 minutes, Mr. Henry.
It is my great honor and great privilege to be amongst such an august body of people who share a love for liberty. And it is of liberty of which we will be speaking today, because Mr. Jefferson's minion and imp, Mr. Madison, proposes that we ratify a constitution that will create a new federal government of unbounded power, powers without checks, powers without limitation, powers without a Bill of Rights to preserve your rights. Mr. Jefferson has trained Mr. Madison. Mr. Jefferson must follow what Mr. Madison says then. Mr. Madison, this Bill of Rights is critical to our freedoms. Mr. Madison says this document, this paper, this Constitution has implicit in it rights. And they offer us the slender hope that virtuous men will be elected who will safeguard the liberties which they say are implicit in this document. That is a feeble barrier to despotism. As Montesquieu said, when we grant titles of nobility, we know what we grant. When we grant power, we do not know what we grant. So now they say, if in order to get this federal behemoth, we must promise you a Bill of Rights, then we will promise it. Just ratify this document, and when we create this new government, we'll amend it and add these Bill of Rights. Mr. Jefferson, is that how you taught Mr. Madison to practice law? To give to your client, here, sign this contract. We'll fill in the terms later. You acknowledge then that this document needs to be fixed. But you say, buy it, and then we'll fix it later. I say, let's fix it before we buy it. Our liberties are far too precious than to be safeguarded by the slender shadows of hope and change. Mr. Jefferson, shall we commence?
Shall we commence? Mr. Henry, as is your wont, you already have.
Well, Mr. Jefferson, I believe these people would like to hear something from you. And perhaps they would like to hear how it is that you have justly garnered the reputation as a godless American.
Here we have it.
Yes, as one who would excise religion from the lives of our citizens, who would make a school child commit a crime by offering a prayer to the Almighty. And Mr. Jefferson, they want to hear of your womanish pose regarding finances. Yes, Mr. Jefferson, these people want to know, why is it that you would block the energy that would inevitably be infused into our economy by the assumption of the debt by our national government, and yet you say we should prefer a hobbled course of pay individually as we go. These people want to know explanations for your positions, Mr. Jefferson. After all, you regularly pontificate from your lofty perch atop your philosophical mountain, whereas I trod the dusty trails with the common people. And as we walk those dusty trails with our Bible in one hand and our gun in the other, we want to know why you meet with us with opprobrium when we do that, Mr. Jefferson. And Mr. Jefferson, have you spent so much time in France? Have your tastes been so contaminated? Are you so Frenchified that you feel compelled to denigrate our common American victuals? Yes, Mr. Jefferson. These people want explanations from you. And Mr. Jefferson, would you please join me so that we might hear some explanations on these topics?
Hear, hear.
Do you mean to say that you are finished?
That'll be the day.
Indeed, Dawkins, I agree. I shall happily stand upon the dais with you, and as I've noticed that you have a particular liberty in speaking your mind and every word to be enunciated, articulated, and heard at great length, I must shackle myself with this particular curiosity. And more than happy to do so, Henry.
Well,
citizens, have you noticed that Mr. Henry has once more lost his track when the subject of our convening is to be our Constitution? He mentions that but for a short time and then launches into a verbal attack upon my character, which is ever his usual wont. I bring him back to the subject of our Constitution. I bring him back to what I consider an improvement upon our Articles of Confederation. I considered our Articles of Confederation to be of a venerable fabric. It should not be tampered with. And yet I assure you this, we but learned in a short time that it is insufficient in providing an effort of taxation that would protect and defend each and every one of our new states and commonwealths, our general safety, our general defense, that it lacked, if you will, a sufficient method of electing our chief magistrate, the President of the United States, that each state could be balanced in their representation of such an election, if you will, the smaller states, not to succumb to the influence of the larger states, or 9 out of every 10 Americans living on farms to be subjected to the opinions of those who live in our nation's 7 largest cities, those cities larger than 20,000 in population. No, citizens, I believe that our Constitution is necessary. It is necessary to provide for 3 particular purposes: the general safety, the general defense, and a general system of taxation necessary for our general safety and defense. And I vow, Mr. Henry, that I stand along with you on caution. I do caution our future. I caution our future to be attentive to the growth of our government, for fear that if we grow beyond those 3 essential purposes of our federal system, those 3 essential purposes supported through our Constitution, then we may well create a federal government as a business unto itself, which will require further taxation in order to support it. I hope that we regard that future rests in our hands. For as Mr. Locke said, no government anywhere at any time will long survive unless it recognizes it receives its just powers to govern from whom? The citizenry, yourselves, understood by a schoolchild free of any lofty sophisms. If there are no people, then a government would govern over nobody. It is the people, we the people, that not only provide the purpose, we provide the power for our government. And rest you assured, the future of our government rests in our hands. It will be but a reflection of ourselves as the people. Now, I look forward to your questions and your curiosities, citizens, for we must hear from the people. Vox populi, vox Dei. As the Romans said, the voice of God is in the voice of the people, and so nature will speak. However, Mr. Henry, I should not allow you a rebuttal in providing me the opportunity for at least 10 minutes here on the platform without answering your personal accusations. Henry's...
Yes, Mr. Jefferson.
Oh, no, not another word, or you'll take more than 10 minutes as was provided.